We know what needs to be done.
The pursuit of truth is enhanced by the BBC's capacity to reflect a wide diversity of opinion.
Well, I don't have a television, so I don't see the TV side of it. I don't buy newspapers.
Editors rarely need to resort to libel when they have newspapers in which to express their views.
Well, Maxwell sacked our members.
He says they sack themselves.
I find his remarks deeply offensive.
There's too many repeats in the summertime. That's my main complaint.
I have a sense of a widespread of argument still on the BBC, and that's how it should be.
And now it's time for the Mark Steele solution.
Good evening and welcome to the Mark Steele Solution, the programme where each week I come up with a radical proposal to change all of our lives for the better. And this week's proposal concerns the media. Because no matter how much any of us think we might be immune from it, we're all taken in by it to some extent. For instance, the only time that I've watched Panorama in the last 5 years was the Princess Di episode, where I was like the rest of the country going, "Go on, Di! Go on, give it to them!" And the only dilemma was that Cracker was on the same time on the other side. And they could have got around that easily by having her interviewed by Cracker. Just having him sat there going, "Go on, admit you wee slag, you were screwing a lot of them here." And most people would agree, after all, that the British press is at an all-time low. Now balmy Eurocrats ban missionary position. The great British way of bonking is under threat from Brussels. On radio is either Chris Evans going, "OK, we're looking for the smelliest earwax in Britain. If you've got a contender, send it in. That's right. It's time to smear your ear and fax the wax." Or else it's Radio 4. Before the next programme, a warning that the Foreign Office have just informed us that China has launched a series of nuclear missiles aimed at British cities, due to land in about 25 minutes. So, in the meantime, a whimsical panel game with Barry Took and Willie Rushton. And that is why tonight's solution is... anyone in charge of the media should be sacked after 30 minutes. So every half an hour, everyone who runs a newspaper or a television station or a radio network loses their job and is replaced by somebody else. So everyone gets to have a go, but only for 30 minutes. Because the problem with the media is that it's owned and controlled by a tiny number of people. So one thing that happens is they buy up one bit of it so that they can use it to advertise another bit they already own. So you get news items in The Sun like, "A woman in Doncaster had a shock yesterday when she subscribed to Sky Movies Plus. Little did I know," she said, "that I would also get Sky Gold absolutely free." Murdoch's already bought up all the sport. Soon he'll have all the other programmes people want to watch as well. So Coronation Street will be like this.
Hello, Rita. I'll have 2 copies of The Sun, please.
Oh, certainly, Mr. Satellite Dish. There you go.
Hey up, Rita.
Oh, hello, Mr. Sugden. Will we be seeing you in the Rovers later?
What, when there's top-class action from the Premier League? Coventry versus Southampton, live and exclusive, only on Sky Sports. You won't get me out of house, pet.
So the people who own the media can use it to sell their products and make more money. But they also use it to influence people's thinking. So when there's not much going on, the papers may look as if they're just full of harmless nonsense. But when it's something that matters to them, like the last election, it's crackpot, Kinnock plans boob tax, lefty feminists back Labour bid to make breasts smaller. They print something often enough, and it's hard not to be taken in, and I'm as bad as anybody else. Like when Bruno was fighting Tyson, and the papers were full of how Bruno was going to win because he's fit and strong, and he's looking healthy, and he's hungry for the title, and he's better than he's ever been, and Tyson's no good anymore because he's been in prison. Like, that's the one place that's going to make you soft, isn't it? And he's over the hill, and Bruno's looking better than ever, and he's great, and he's going to win. And somebody said to me, "No, he's going to get knocked over in the 3rd round." And I went, "No, you don't understand. I've read about how Bruno's fit and strong, and he's going to win." And as soon as he went over, of course, we all thought, of course he was going to get his head filled in. On the one hand, here is savage Mr. Fighting Machine, ghetto man, axe man, huge bloody great bloke, puts his finger through a breeze block man. Against in this corner, Buttons from Cinderella. And what about television? If the present system of having the same people running it all the time is such a success, why are so many evenings like this?
And now, ITV, in association with the Daily Mirror, presents Paul's Pairs.
Hello and welcome to a brand new original game show. It's time to play Paul's Pairs. Let me run through the rules of this brand new game. When I give the signal, one of the two contestants will turn over a playing card. The other one will then do likewise. If the two cards are of different denominations, the process will continue. But if the two cards match in number or rank, the contestants must shout out a word, and that word is snap.
So you change over.
And now on BBC Two, it's time for Up Your Arts.
The letter D has featured over the years in such diverse words as dog, epidemiology and shed. But where now for this versatile and provocative letter? With me to discuss the letter D are Germaine Greer, Michael Ignatieff and an outspoken critic of the letter, Tony Parsons. Tony.
Look, in the 60s, we did see some fantastic advances in literature thanks to the letter D, particularly with Franz Howdendegg's epic trilogy, which was written using only the letter D. But come on, this is the 90s and...
You're watching Channel 4. Now, this week's Lifelines presents an alarming report on how the increasing number of climbers on Mount Everest is forcing a colony of Himalayan snow gerbils to move 200 or 300 yards to the left.
Now on BBC One, it's another case for Inspector Mountjoy, the hoovering detective.
Oh, it just doesn't add up, Collins. Why would a 70-year-old woman keep a gazelle in the bath?
See, one of the problems is, if you have the same people running television all the time, you're bound to end up with a clique. Like, most people know that a lot of the people high up in the television industry have been to Cambridge. Now, I was on this panel once that was answering people's questions about the media, and one of the other people on the panel was high up in the media and had been to Cambridge. And someone asked, why is it so many people high up in the media have been to Cambridge? And he just said, well, one gets to a position of influence and one employs those people one trusts because one studied with them at Cambridge. And I thought, well, at least have the decency to deny it. I thought, well, I'll do the same then. If I ever get your job, I'll employ one of my mates from Swanley Comprehensive. And the first thing I get him to do is to read the news.
The 6 o'clock news read by Billy Watson.
Good evening. Here, there ain't half a bundle going on in Lebanon. There's this general coming straight at me. He's gone out the way. I says, you what? He says, you heard. I've gone smack. He's caught me in the teeth. I've caught him in the nuts. He's gone and got 3 tanks to come straight at me. I've gone, oh yeah, who wants some? Gammon!
Another problem with not changing the people in charge every half an hour is it means you get all sorts of hangers-on. Because the easiest way to get on in the media is to know the right people and hang around with them at the sort of parties where some poor sod in a dinner jacket has to stand all night holding a tray of vol-au-vents. So the media becomes like a royal court where anyone with any influence is surrounded by people telling them how marvellous they are, even if they're clearly not. Imagine if sport was run like this. Gareth, well done!
Mwah, mwah. You were marvellous, Gareth, darling.
Oh, thanks very much. You don't think I messed up the penalty, then?
Nonsense! You took it beautifully!
No, I mean, straight at the goalkeeper. It's just so original.
And because the people who run the media get this sort of thing all the time, they never find out what people really think. And the people below them become terrified of having their own opinion in case it disagrees with the bosses, which is why most people in the media lose the ability to be able to decide on anything.
Yeah, right, OK, right, everyone, let's make a start. Derek, are you with us? Yeah. Right, so has everyone got their briefing in front of them? Now, the main thing is...
Before we start, does anybody mind if I open the window?
Well, OK, that's as good a place to start as any. Any thoughts on this window opening idea of Michael's?
Alan, could I come in here? Michael, why were you thinking of opening the window?
Well, it's just a bit warm in here, really, don't you think?
Am I hot, Colin?
Anyone?
Well, I don't know. Which
come on, what is the general feedback on this? I mean, are people hot at the moment?
It's sort of hot in a coldish sense, I heard.
Sorry to interrupt, we've just heard. ITV have opened their windows.
Quick, open the windows!
Smash them!
And now they've got all these people like John Burt in charge, introducing schemes like producer choice. It's your choice. You can go along with it, or you're sacked. Up to you. And if they do want to get rid of someone, but they're too important to sack, then all they do is they promote them to a position that sounds important, but isn't, like Senior Executive Imperial Head of all broadcasting throughout the galaxy, except Earth. But the main problem with the present system of television is that it's obsessed with viewing figures. Programmes like Brookside, desperate to attract viewers, have to come up with more and more lunatic stories that involve whatever's in the news strangely taking place in Brookside Close.
Hey, have you heard what's happened? The Orange Men want to march down Brookside Close. And Jimmy Corkill's going to put up a barricade to stop them.
I mean, he's got enough on his mind as it is, what with having gone down with BSE.
Hey, have you heard the latest? Sinbad's pregnant.
Yeah, and he's going to have 8 babies.
See, obviously it's right to want a lot of people to watch your programmes, but if that's all you worry about, you can't have anything that's passionate because someone might disagree with it. So they think it's better to have 10 million people going, oh yeah, I saw that, than 2 million going, God, that was brilliant. And what about radio? Well, that's going the same way with all these news stations chasing after listeners, all playing the same bland music with DJs going, OK, classic sounds coming your way. Here's 6 in a row from Phil Collins. But clearly, the way the media is run has to change. The only question is how. Well, one alternative is the American solution, which is that everyone should have the opportunity to run their own tin pot local cable channel. But the problem with this is that the only people with the time to take advantage of this are evangelists and nutters. So you get programmes on Manhattan cable like this.
Hi, I'm Dawn. And this is my ass. Yep. Right here on Dawn's Ass Television. Take a good look now. Come on, get that camera a bit closer. Good people want to see Dawn's ass. That's right, folks. Nothing but Dawn's ass. Coming at you 24 hours a day here on Dawn's Ass Television.
Another alternative in England is to have more localised programmes, but the trouble is there isn't enough happening in any town to justify a whole station. So even in London you get programmes like London Tonight that have to pad their show out with quirky items like every morning Christopher Thompson walks the 1.5 mile journey from his flat in Camden to his office in Euston. Nothing particularly unusual about that, you may think, except that Christopher Thompson is a sea lion. And you get local radio programmes where they try to make themselves sound so important. It'll be something like Radio Kettering, and they'll have local traffic reports. But how much traffic news can there be in a place like Kettering? Well, nothing much to report from our flying eye at the moment, except that Mr Prendergast is backing out of his drive up there in Wormsley Street. Try and avoid the Wormsley Street area if you can. Sheer weight of traffic there as we wait for him to get to Quicksave. So the only answer to break the rot is that every half an hour, everyone in charge of the media is sacked. But before we see how our system would work, let's hear from our regular correspondent, live from number 9, Begonia Close, the voice of the cul-de-sac, Mr Cul-de-sac.
This is the sound of the suburbs.
Television? Don't talk to me about television. It's nothing but sex nowadays. Look at that Gardener's World. Full frontal pollinating at 6:30 on a Monday. It's disgusting. I took my radio back to the shop. They said, what's the matter with it? I said, I turned the dial and they started speaking German. I want me money back. And what about that satellite television? I'm not going all the way up to space just to watch one-day cricket. I saw an advert in the local paper. It said, second-hand pram, £18. I went straight round. I said, £18 is a disgrace. They said, well, how much will you offer? I said, I don't want a pram. I've just come to complain about the price. Look at the local council planning to recycle old newspapers. It's an outrage. I'm not paying 25 pence just to find out that Clement Attlee's won the election. It's a waste of ratepayers' money. Spend that money hanging people. And why has the BBC got an internal market? No wonder they can't make decent programmes if they spend all day long selling each other carrots. I've been writing some letters to the television people. Here they are. Dear television people, it says in the paper you're putting news at 10 on tonight. That was on yesterday. Aren't there enough repeats? And it is. Here's Here's another one. Dear television people, I've just watched The X-Files. Call that an X? There weren't even any tits in it, just an alien. Here's another one. Dear television people, why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, why. That's as far as I got with that one, but it's coming on, don't you think?
This is the sound.
Thank you, Mr. Cul-de-sac. So how would our scheme work? Well, it would be a bit like jury service. People's names would be picked at random, and then they would get to decide what goes out for 1 half-an-hour period on a radio or a television station. And then after 30 minutes, they'd be sacked. Or, if they got chosen to run a newspaper, their 30 minutes in charge would entitle them to decide what's on one page. So everyone would get their chance. You might get page 1 of the Daily Mail going, Britain's brave bobbies were under siege once again last night from Newbury's New Age thugs. And then on page 2, Newbury police hassle eco-warriors. Oh, has anyone seen my skins? And instead of every day loads of stuff in the tabloids promoting the lottery, you might just get a big headline. It's balls to the lottery week, folks. It won't be you. What a lotto rotto. Don't make 'em rich at Camelotto. You'd even get different points of view in the sports pages.
Don't miss tomorrow's back page of the Daily Mirror. Bash the Bosch. Exclusive pictures as our Mirror reporter gets revenge for Euro 96 by bombing Dresden.
But on page 5, it's Deutschland, Deutschland, über alles. We tell Gareth Southgate, you were marvellous, darling. Mwah, mwah. Hitting it straight at the keeper was so original.
Now, some people might think that the quality of newspapers and programmes would suffer, but it wouldn't. Because under our scheme, you'd still get the same amount of money to spend on the slot that you'd been given. The newspapers and television companies would still employ all their professional cameramen and journalists and presenters. But instead of someone like Rupert Murdoch telling them what to do, you would. So if your name came up, and you were dying to find out what happened next in Coronation Street, you just ring up Granada and get them to make it. But you'd be in control. So the chances are the first thing that would happen in Coronation Street under this scheme would be, here, have you heard the news? Ken Barlow struck by lightning, fried to a crisp. Another advantage of this scheme is that you'd broaden people's outlooks because you wouldn't get the same sort of programme all the time on each channel. Like when I was a kid, I never, ever saw BBC Two because it was, we're not watching that, that's the Snobs channel. Whereas under our scheme, every half an hour there'd be a new controller, so you'd get, and now on BBC Two, Jermaine Greer, Michael Ignatieff and Tony Parsons present Late Night Darts, live and exclusive from the Sheffield Arena. There'd be so much more variety. You might get a pirate radio disc jockey doing the Today programme on Radio 4. All right, any moment now, we've got a kicking interview coming up with Mr Kenneth Clark, Chancellor of the Exchequer. But first, coming up, poor Becky and the posse down there in Eltham is fought for the day. And out there in the posse, remember that today's fought Becky is God is kicking, don't touch that dial. And then for a laugh, he could have his Rasta mate doing the shipping forecast. Dogger, Finisterre, Ruckal, me have massive warning for you. And then the slot on pirate radio could be taken by a Radio 3 presenter. Now, the next tune comes in 5 parts, 2 verses, 2 choruses, and, of course, a middle 8. And fascinating to note how the composer, Mr Snoop Doggy Dog, blends the pianoforte with the lyrics as they begin. I'm a cop killer, yo bitch gonna shoot your ass. And another advantage, fans of programmes that are always made cheaply would be allowed to pool their resources together. So if you got 6 people chosen who were all fans of Countdown, they could put all their budgets together and do a version that was a 6-part costume drama filmed on the Yorkshire moors. My good sir, I bid you welcome.
Oh, you are most kind. It is a pleasure and indeed an honour to receive an invitation from one so esteemed as yourselves.
Oh, come, sir, you flatter me. And you, madam, if I may venture as to be so bold, rarely have I had the pleasure of beholding such radiance, nay, beauty, on the part of a contestant.
Why, sir, you make me blush.
Please, I beg you both, be seated. Now, should there be anything you require, madam, you have only to ask, and it will, of course, receive my immediate and undivided attention.
Indeed, sir, there is. I would very much desire a vowel. A consonant. Another consonant. A vowel, and 4 consonants.
Very well. And what word have you from this, sir?
Belgium.
I regret, sir, I cannot allow this word. For surely you are aware that this word is a proper noun and therefore cannot possibly be permitted. To do so would be to openly flout the rules.
Rules? Damn your rules, sir. Belgium, I say, and Belgium it shall be.
And next week, high drama as a contestant fails to get anywhere near the number 643 and is therefore denied permission to marry Lady Carol Vorderman.
Another advantage is that every social group in society would be fairly represented. Because at the moment, nearly every mainstream presenter talks in that sort of television voice. Whereas under our scheme, it wouldn't be at all unusual to have someone from, say, the West Country doing the news. I tell you what, there's been more goings-on up in town. I don't know why you want to bother going up there. See it, Mara? And the weather would be, well, you know what they say. If your carrots be different sizes, there'll be rain and devices. You could even get EastEnders set in Somerset. You going down the Vic? Shut up. Well, you can shut up yourself, you old cow. And another advantage, sports programmes wouldn't have to even pretend that they were impartial.
And it's Crystal Palace on the attack. The Ipswich fans aren't singing now, are they? Houghton beats one player, beats another. He's inside the box, and that must be a penalty. A referee penalty. Are you blind? But now it's Ipswich pressing forward. Oh, my God, I don't like the look of this. Get into him, you useless pillock. I don't know why we ever bought you. He's clear through. Oh, no. Ipswich are going to score. He shoots.
And another advantage, if you sacked everyone in charge of the media every 30 minutes, you wouldn't get all the hangers-on and grovelling. Because what would be the point in sucking up to a TV executive at an after-show party when the next day he'd have to go back to his job as a dustman?
Hi, Terry. Mwah, mwah. I loved your show. I'm from Avalaf Artistes. I think we met at Groucho's. Now, please, you have to tell me, what are you working on next?
Well, it's back on the bins tomorrow, love.
Bins? Fantastic! Oh, now look, here's my card. I represent Chris Evans. He's sort of looking for a project in the autumn, so do let me know if you've got anything that might be suitable, all right?
Oh, yeah, well, as it happens, we have got a skip full of earwax that needs scooping out by hand. And under our scheme, the people in charge of the media would be genuinely accountable to the public. Because if, for example, you'd used your half an hour to make an episode of Noel's House Party, the next time you went down the pub, they'd all go, there he is, and kick your head in. And the present controllers would be shown up for what they are. Because if one of them did ever get chosen to have half an hour, they'd put something on for 15 minutes and then repeat it. So, under the Mark Steele solution, the media would be fair to everybody, television wouldn't be obsessed with viewing figures, there'd be no bureaucrats and hangers-on, and every single newspaper, radio and TV show would be full of passion and commitment and quality. And so, with our scheme in place, what sort of television programme could you expect?
And now, the BBC, in association with the Daily Mirror, presents Mark's Big Solution.
Hello, thank you. And of course a very special thank you to all those lovely people who wrote in to say how much they enjoyed my last series of Weeds Win Prizes. But before we get on with the show, let's meet the lovely Maria and this week's guest, Mr. Cul-de-Sac.